The pushback, meanwhile, is coming from Africa. Lawyers in Nigeria are suing China. They want $200 billion in damages for the loss of lives. That's not the only battle being fought. Africans are also fighting growing racism in China. Videos show Africans in China being attacked and harassed. They're being forcibly evicted and face discrimination over the spread of the Wuhan virus.
The clamor to make China pay is growing louder. The latest on the list is Nigeria. A group of Nigerian lawyers is suing China. They want $200 billion in damages. Reports cite a statement. The damages are being sought for the loss of lives, economic strangulation, trauma, hardship, social disorientation, mental torture, and disruption of the normal daily existence of people in Nigeria. The lawyers have a two-phase action plan. First, go to the Federal High Court of Nigeria, and then persuade the government to sue China at the International Court of Justice. Africa's anger against China is being fueled by the racist attacks Africans are facing in China. They are battling discrimination and stigma. Social media is awash with videos. This one shows a Chinese police officer harassing an African man. Racism and xenophobia are on the rise in China. Reports say thousands of African-origin people have been left homeless after being evicted over fears that they could be spreading the coronavirus. This is apparently linked to a cluster of COVID-19 cases in the Nigerian community in the southern city of Guangzhou in China. The African students residing in the area say they have been subjected to arbitrary quarantines and forced evictions. Mohammed, a Guinean student in Guangzhou, narrates his ordeal.
When you go out, people run away from you. It's very terrible. You will be like uncomfortable to stay in that country. So every time your family is calling you, asking you about the information, how you are living here, and then how you are struggling. But there is something you cannot tell them because they will feel bad. They will start crying and then worrying about you.
The African Union earlier this month expressed its extreme concern about the situation in Guangzhou and called on Beijing to take immediate corrective measures.
Nigerians were worried.
Several African ambassadors in China have written to the country's foreign minister over the discrimination faced by Africans. But the hands of these governments are tied. Most of them have taken billions of dollars of Chinese loans. Nearly 2 decades of lending has made China Africa's top creditor. Between 2000 and 2017, China's government, banks and companies lent some $143 billion to Africa. The continent now faces multiple challenges: repaying China's loans, fighting China's virus, and dealing with China's racism. The pushback has begun. The lawyers in Nigeria seem to be leading the way.
We have a lot of difficulties we are going through right now because we have been in a lockdown for at least 3 months now. And we have a lot of challenges we are going through at this time. And the most challenge is racism. We are facing racism in a way that we cannot access medical care in hospitals. When we go to hospitals and we need any help, all they tell us is, please go away, after checking our passports and finding out that we are blacks, actually finding out that we are from Africa. Another challenge we face is we cannot use the public means. Because when we try to use the, like if you want to use a bus and you enter a bus, all the Chinese come out. They all come out and they leave you in the bus alone, like they are protesting they can't travel with an African. Another challenge is we are not allowed to use, like to go to the supermarkets to buy what we want. We cannot use the hotels. When we go there, after checking your passport, the only thing they tell you is go away, please go away. When you insist like you want you want something, they call the police, and what the police tells you is please go away. Then another issue is another challenge is some of our friends have been thrown out of the houses they've been renting with no reason, not anything. The landlord just comes one morning and tells you, please make sure that today you leave my house. And another thing is, another challenge is, they are forcing us to test for COVID-19 because they come to our houses with no notification. They just come to your house and ask for your passport. If you're African, they tell you that we've come to test for COVID-19. If you're not African, they tell you no. And when they come, after testing, they only tell you that we shall call you after 3 days when you're positive, and if you're not positive, no one will call you. They don't leave you with any document to see that you have tested or that you can show to any other person that you have tested. Those are some of the challenges, and we also face a challenge of food. Like we don't have food as for now. We don't have money for rent, and we ask the government to please intervene.
All right. So, Victoria, if I may ask, what city in China are you?
I'm in Shenzhen City.
All right. So, have you tried to engage, the Ugandan embassy in China to see if there's any intervention that can come through?
Yes, thank you so much. In the last week of January, I was talking to our chairman at the embassy, Ugandan embassy in Beijing, and he told us that the government has not put any provision for anyone. Then in February, I tried to go to the consulate because now our situation was bad because I'm not alone, we are very many. They told me the same thing, that the government doesn't put in provision for anyone. Then I contacted the ambassador himself. It's 1 week back since I contacted the ambassador. He told me the same thing. Then last Saturday, I contacted him again. The ambassador told me that every Ugandan everywhere needs the government's help, and the government cannot give help to anyone. And the only thing we can do is to contact our families. At this point, also our families are in quarantines, and for us, we are also in a lockdown, and our families cannot help us. So what we chose to do after that, we created a group. We started seeking for amnesty, and at this time, we have all gathered ourselves. We are above 100 seeking for amnesty.
Okay, Victoria. Victoria, if I can chip in, what kind of help do you want the government to give you at this time?
We want the government to intervene and help us push the amnesty thing, because we cannot do it at individual level. As I've said, that we contacted all the people to help us, like the ambassador, the consulate, and the chairman at the embassy, and no one could help. So now we want the government to help us intervene and push the amnesty thing, because China's amnesty is not like any other developed country's amnesty. Here, when you seek for amnesty, you're still forced to pay a fine. And that money is between 3,000 and 5,000 RMBs. And we don't have that money for this time because we've been in the lockdown for 3 months now, and we don't have that money.
The pushback, meanwhile, is coming from Africa. Lawyers in Nigeria are suing China. They want $200 billion in damages for the loss of lives. That's not the only battle being fought. Africans are also fighting growing racism in China. Videos show Africans in China being attacked and harassed. They're being forcibly evicted and face discrimination over the spread of the Wuhan virus.
The clamor to make China pay is growing louder. The latest on the list is Nigeria. A group of Nigerian lawyers is suing China. They want $200 billion in damages. Reports cite a statement. The damages are being sought for the loss of lives, economic strangulation, trauma, hardship, social disorientation, mental torture, and disruption of the normal daily existence of people in Nigeria. The lawyers have a two-phase action plan. First, go to the Federal High Court of Nigeria, and then persuade the government to sue China at the International Court of Justice. Africa's anger against China is being fueled by the racist attacks Africans are facing in China. They are battling discrimination and stigma.